Hello, welcome to One Man's Faith. My name is Neal Owen. Glad to have you with me today, and we're going to just jump into God's Word and see what's going on here. Last week, we started into 1 Samuel. We've gotten that far. We're out of the law part, and now we're into the we're into the prophets or the writings, the history, however you want to look at it, and we started by looking at the life of Samuel. 1 Samuel actually opens up with Samuel or Samuel's family, or Hannah really wanting to have a child. She has a child, his name is Samuel. So it starts there, that's chapter 1 and chapter 2, and it ends with the death of Saul. And then there's a smattering of all kinds of things that happen with battles and David and things like that. That's what we're going to get in today. I think we got toward Saul being king. What had happened, Eli was the last judge, and he had two sons who did not come after the Lord. And Eli didn't do anything about it. And so God told Eli, he said, listen, because you would not discipline your sons, I'm going to discipline you. And so Hophni and Phinehas went out. They decided to take the ark into battle. They didn't ask God about doing this. And so Hophni and Phinehas, being the priest, went with it. It was captured by the Philistines. Hophni and Phinehas died. And when Eli heard it, he died. So Samuel is now the big man on campus. He is a prophet, but he's also judging. Okay? He had grown up under Eli, which Eli was his mentor, but unfortunately, Samuel's kids were the same way as Hophni and Phinehas. And so Samuel was coming to a point of appointing his two sons as the leadership or the judge over Israel. And the people said, no, we're not going to have that. We want a king. And so we go through this process, and Samuel, he groans and he bemoans, says, oh, it's my fault. I did all this, and God said, listen, Samuel, it's not you. They have not rejected you; they've rejected me as king. Because God was acting as king through the judges, but they wanted a king like the rest of the world. Okay, and so. In a way, the people pick the king in this case. He was selected by God, and God said, okay, this is going to be the king. And so in chapter 10 of 1 Samuel, Samuel anoints Saul to be king. And in doing so, he pours oil on him, he anoints him, but he says, listen, meet me in 7 days, and we'll seal this deal, okay? And so there's some other things that Samuel gave him as prophecy about what was going to happen in the next 7 days. And at the end of that time, Saul is getting ready. Well, Saul had done some things and kind of like throwing a rock at the Philistines. And so they were going to gather together, and they were going to come against Saul. As a matter of fact, in chapter 13, it says that Saul had 3,000 men, 2,000 were with Saul, 1,000 were with Jonathan, and the Philistines come into an area called Mishmash, and they have 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and Owen's translation says a gazillion people, okay? Because what it actually says is people like the sand, which is on the seashore. So the Philistines are coming at them with everything, and Saul only has 3,000. Well, Saul then starts to call the people to himself. He's in the area just around Mishmash, and they're coming and they're afraid. They are trembling because the Philistines had done away with either kidnapped or took them hostage and made the blacksmiths their own blacksmiths, but there were no blacksmiths in the land of Israel, so there were no swords. The only way they could get their plows and their sickles sharpened was to go to the Philistines. And the only two people that had swords were Saul and Jonathan. Everybody didn't. And so they were scared. I mean, here, 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and a gazillion people, and they all had swords. And so some of the people came toward Saul, but not many. Others even ran across the Jordan River to the other side to stay away from this. Most of the others hid in caves. Okay? And the people that Saul had at the end of 7 days were starting to leave. And Saul was supposed to wait for Samuel. And he had the world mentality that the more I have, the better we are. And so he said, hey, don't leave. I'll do the sacrifice. Oh, strike one. And so he performs the sacrifice, and as soon as he's finished, Samuel comes in. You know, it reminds me of Aaron. When Aaron made the golden calf, you know, it specifically says he asked for the earrings and he molded a calf. Well, when Moses appeared, he said, I don't know what happened. I threw the gold into the fire and the calf came out. You know, I can picture Saul now. I don't know what happened. You weren't here. I had to do something. I had to take over. I know God couldn't do it by himself. I had to help him. Oh, bad, bad, bad. But Saul making the sacrifice was not a good thing. As a matter of fact, Samuel comes in and says, what have you done? And Saul says, I was forced. So I forced myself to offer the burnt offering. I didn't have a choice, Samuel. I had to do it. And Samuel says, you know, you've acted foolishly. You've acted foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now the Lord would have established your kingdom in Israel forever, if he had waited. But now your kingdom shall not endure. The Lord has sought out for himself another man after his heart. And the Lord has appointed him as ruler over his people. Whoa. In other words, Samuel, you're fired. But see, he couldn't just fire him because the people were looking for a king. And you can't have a king unless he's called forth and he's anointed. Okay? So, in a sense, they are stuck with the king. Now, if Samuel were to anoint another king, that king would have the prerogative, really, to come, take over the kingship, kill Saul, and take over. Okay, that's one of the possibilities that could happen. Well, in the meantime, Saul and 2,000 men, Jonathan and 1,000 men, and this gazillion Philistines. The Philistines are getting ready to come to battle against the small Israeli army. And Jonathan is sitting there, and maybe it was like, well, I mean, even today, I can remember being in the army. It was always hurry up and wait. You know, get ready, put everything together, so we can go, but then we sit for hours. Jonathan says to his armor bearer, he said, "Let's go over to that Philistine garrison over there." And so it's in chapter 14, Jonathan says, "Come, let's cross over to the garrison of the uncircumcised." What's he saying? He's talking about the Philistines. Uncircumcised mean they're not under the law. Okay? "Perhaps the Lord will work with us. For the Lord is not restrained by many or few." Jonathan understood something I don't think his father did. The Lord is not restrained to save by many or by few. In other words, hey, the Lord can work through you and me. Let's go over here and check out this garrison. And so they go over there, and Jonathan comes up with this really neat battle plan. He says, "I tell you what, here's what we're going to do. Plan A. We're going to step out and let them see us. And if they say to us, 'Wait a minute, we're coming down to you,' then we'll leave. But if they say to us, 'Hey, come up here,' then we know that God has given them to us." Yeah, really? Okay. Think about that for a second. Get a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.